Okay, sorry, I was waiting for it to tell me it was recording. But I see that I'm recording. Okay, good. So I wanted to go back to this basics guy, and I want us to write a class that basically prints from here down. Or maybe I'll start with just that piece. So we'll do a new class. So in chapter 1, I can jump into my source code folder. I can go in my default package. If I'm on a Mac, maybe I go to P1 just to put it inside the package, and then I can do new class. Notice I can always put that package name here if I don't want to use the default. So this is going to be hello class, and we'll do the print. Like we're going to print, or no, let's call it basics. Basic2 for that, the basics2. The basics. The basics2. It's public. I want public static void main. Finish. We're going to put some commenting at the top, block commenting, /* return, and then it'll put comments for all the space in here. So my name or your name, computer science 142, the date. Today for me is the 26th. For you, it's whenever you're watching this video, hopefully the 29th or before. And then we could talk about what this program's going to do. This program will illustrate using escape sequences to print. I don't want my code to go too wide on my screen. Notice my coding window is not the full screen. I don't use this full screen. I like it to be a little bit smaller, not so wide. You want it to be easily readable, so you don't want your lines to go really long, really wide. This program will illustrate using escape sequences to print several lines, an outline from the basics. So this is an auto-generated method stub. We don't need it here. We're going to get rid of it. Again, my class name starts with a capital T, but my method, in this case, main is the only method I have right now. We're going to put a new one in here in a minute. It starts with a lowercase. Okay, so we're going to first print this hello class with those quotes. So it's a print line, system.out, print line, open parenthesis, quotes. So I want to print a quote, this one. And to print that quote, I need a / before it. So I go / quote, and I frequently mix up the / and the /, so I'll just do my best to always, get it right, but I have a hard time with, the difference between that and that. They look the same to me. It's kind of a left-right issue. So /, and then we're going to say, what are we going to say there? Hello class, again. And then at the end of hello class, I want another quote. So it's not that one because that's closing my string. I need a / quote here to end the quotes. And that should be my line of code that prints hello class in quotation marks. I'm going to run it. See it on my console. There it is, hello class. Then I want to tab in and print this line of code. String literals is anything in quotes. So again, I need to have a tab. That's that character. And then I'm going to need escape sequences for both of these quotes. System.out.print line quote. So that's going to be my string. I'm going to start it with a tab. So \tab. And then I want to print string literals. So I'll type that in. String space literals. I think I have a space followed by an open parenthesis. And then I have a quote. Maybe I can just move this over so we can see it. Quote, inside of quotes, it says anything in quotes. So to get the open quote, I need a \quote, I think, and then I'm going to type anything. Well, I notice I'm kind of running out of lines here. So what I'm going to do is go back to here, make this a print statement. Maybe put a space after that, close the thing, and then come down and do a print line. Just so that I can keep everything on the screen here and easy to see. So this print line is going to be starting with the open parentheses, and then I need a quote, so \quote, anything in quotes. And I need another quote in my print statement, so again, \quote. And these are the escape sequences that we're trying to learn here. That should print the first line. Now, rather than going to the next line, we should run it and see if it's working. This is kind of what we call the iterative process. Do one thing at a time and see if it works before you move on. Hello, class. It tabs in string literals, anything in quotes. Ah, I notice here I don't have my closed parentheses. So that's a good thing to have run that because I need that closed parenthesis in there. And then again, before I move on, run it again. There it is. And then we need the second line, print line versus print. So system.out. And you know, it's important that you do this coding. If you're watching me do it, it's like watching TV or something. You're not learning how to do it. You're just, you know, watching someone else do it. It doesn't really help you. I mean, it helps a little bit, but you're going to learn by doing it and then seeing that red little underline there and realizing, oh, I forgot my semicolon at the end of that. We are trying to learn some syntax here and get good at sort of the typing and the different syntax that is in Java that, you know, was not in Python. Okay, so run this guy. Oh, shoot, it doesn't look right. So normally in class I would say, what's wrong? What did I do wrong? I make mistakes all the time. So mistakes are good because it's like that teaches us how to move forward. So we see what's missing here. This is supposed to be tabbed in. So in front of this print line, I need a \t. Now notice, you know, when I put that in there, it actually looks weird. It's like \t print ln, you know, it's hard to see what that says, but you know, I don't want to put a space here because that would have an extra space. So I needed to leave it like that and then run it, and there we go. There it is. So these 4 lines of code, this is sort of the part of the outline that is dealing with the hello class part. And I could take those 4 lines of code and put them in a new method. So maybe that method would be called strings, or let's see, what would we call it? String literals, because that's kind of what we're, or print statements. I don't know what we would call it. Let's call it first bullet. So I'm going to have a new method here, public static. It's also going to be void, and I'm going to call this method first bullet. So I'm going to lowercase the first word, first, and uppercase the second word, bullet. Bullet for that bullet point. Maybe bullet's not the right. First, it is a bullet point. First item, let's call it. I don't want to use the word bullet. So first item, open and close parentheses, and then open curly brace, hit return. So this sets up the method first item. I'm not going to put anything in it yet. Well, And why don't I put all, I want to put all this code in there. So I'm going to cut it out of there, cut, and paste it in here. Now, if I run it, nothing will happen because nothing is in main. So we didn't tell the program to do anything. If I want it to run that other method called first item, I need to call the method. So this is, I'm going to put my semicolon here. I'm going to put a comment here. Normally, this is not a comment we would add in, but just so you understand what we're doing here, this is the method call. So that first item method call is going to call this function or method called first item, and then it's going to line by line run that method. So hello class, string literals, anything in quotes, print line versus print. Okay, so there's our first item. Now come back over here. In between the first item, which is this, and the second item, which is all this, there is an empty line, print line. So I'm going to put that in my main. It's not really part of the first line, first item. It's not really part of the second item. System.out.println. It's an empty line that's printing between the first item and the second item. And then here I'll set up a call to the second item. And they're really bullet points. I just didn't want to use the word bullet. This charged time. So second item. Now notice I have an error because it says, you know, it doesn't know what this, the method second item is undefined. So I haven't defined it. I could use this auto fix, create a method called second item. I'd be a little bit careful with some of the auto fixes in Eclipse because they don't always do what you would expect them to do. If you know what's wrong with it and you can just fix it yourself, that's usually a better way to learn. Public static void. Again, we're not learning Eclipse necessarily, the IDE, the programming environment. We're actually wanting to learn the language and the structures of the language. So much better to just type this in myself. Understand why it has an error. So the name of the function followed by an open and closed parenthesis. This is where the parameters will go if the function is accepting any inputs. And then I need an open brace and hit return. It'll create the closed brace here. So now notice where this function, or we'll go back to first item. Everything inside of here is indented. If anything is off the indentation now, it doesn't, it's not an error, but it'll still run. The Java doesn't care about the empty white space. The white space is there for us so that we can understand like, oh, there's something potentially wrong if the auto indentation is off. So always safer to sort of have that indentation. You can click on this brace here. It'll highlight the other one that opened it. So it's very common to mix up your braces. The other thing is these functions are not inside of main. Main ends here, and these are at the same level as main. So here's where main's starting. Here's where first item is starting. Here's where second item is starting. Okay, so in second item, system.out.println. Open parenthesis, open quote. So notice if I just start with a quote there, it doesn't close it. So I notice right away, oh, I didn't do something right. Open parenthesis, open quote. Okay, and then I want to print this common escape sequences. And my statement with a semicolon, return. I'm going to do each of these as a line. Each one is going to start. Okay, each one's going to start with the tab in, so \T, and then the first one starts with a \. So I need the escape sequence on the \, which is \\. So that'll print a \. So let's just run this and see what it does. It has an error. Cancel. I didn't put a semicolon at the end. I just want to show you what that little sequence of print in that print statement does. it just prints a tab and a backslash. And after that backslash, I want a T followed by another tab. So I have a backslash, I'm gonna put a T, and then I need a tab to get over to where it says tab character. So backslash T, and then tab character. Now, before I go on to type everything else in, I wanna run this and see if it looks right. Ah, it does. Backslash T is a tab character. Now I'm gonna go to the next one, system.out, print line, start my quote. Again, I need a backslash T to begin the thing. Then I need a backslash. So backslash backslash to print the backslash. Then I need an N. Then I need a tab. And then I need new line character in words. You know, I mean, I know it's right, but I'll run it. I don't actually know it's right. I hope it's right. Okay, so there's that guy. And I need 2 more. So we're gonna go down. You know, I could cheat and copy and paste that, but what I'm trying to learn here are these escape sequences. And you know, they're tricky to look at. It's hard to see that second or third line of code and figure out what's gonna print there, right? All those spaces and backslashes. So it's much easier to kind of go through it from the beginning. We need to start with a tab, backslash T, then we need a backslash, so that's backslash backslash. Then we need a quote, so that's backslash quote. Then we need a double quote. Then we need a tab, so that's backslash T. So it's a lot of stuff, and then we want to write the words quotation mark. Now, if you're just trying to copy this, it's not going to work. I mean, you can copy it, but you're not going to learn what I want you to learn. So it's much better for you to pause the video. Don't try to copy what I've just typed. Just go back to the thing that we're trying to type and say, okay, I need a tab, then I need a backslash, then I need a quote, then I need another tab. And then we'll run it. Hope that it works. So, you know, okay, so far so good. We got one more, which is the backslash system.out. Print line. Okay, so this guy starts. Again, we need a tab, backslash T. We need 2 backslashes now. So each backslash requires a backslash in front of it. So backslash, backslash, that's the first one. Backslash, backslash, that's the second one. Then we need a tab, backslash T, and then when you can type in backslash character. And again, you know, trying to copy that code doesn't really accomplish what we want. I'd much rather you be over here and trying to figure out how to print this than copying what I just did or trying to you know, keep up with me. Okay, what I'm after is this output down here looks right. I want to point one more thing out, and then we'll call this video a day. And that is, I did it, but I didn't mention it. So I just want to mention it. I'm going to open this up a little bit. I'm going to cut all of this out for a second. Don't do this. Just I want you to show you. So let's go back to here. When I initially said second item here, I had the method call, and I created the method here. And then I run it. And it runs it with running the first, it actually runs the first method, first item, there it is. It actually calls the second item and runs it, but there's nothing to do there. So what this allows me to do as a coder is to sort of check that my structure is working, that the second method call runs successfully, even though there's nothing in it to do. It's the passing of where the program is going. So when we run this code, I'm going to go back in here and repaste it in. So so pause here and make sure you have your code working, and then come back and hit play again. So when we run this code now, we want to be able to walk through the code. So this is us walking through the code. This is something I might have you do when you submit code. It's a way of determining how well we understand the code. So this is the class, the Basics2. We start off by looking at main. In main, we call the function first item. So then we go down here to first item. First item has 4 print statements. A print line says hello class. A print statement, that's a tab. We tab in and print string literals. Then it has another print statement after that, or print line statement that first prints open parenthesis followed by a quote, anything in quotes, and another escape sequence for a quote. And then we have another print line statement again that starts with a tab, print line versus print. And then we go back to main, where we print a single empty line. Then we call the function second item. I'm not going to go through all of the escape sequences here, but second item contains 5 print line statements, each of which has various escape sequences in it so that we can have that Basics2 structure output. Now, I kind of skipped over that last part. I could also ask you to say, okay, explain, this line of code to me. And you would say, okay, that's a print line statement that starts with a tab, and then we're printing a backslash, and then we're printing a quote, and then we're tabbing in and printing quotation mark. Okay, whatever I just did, I need to undo because I moved stuff around a little bit. Okay, so that would be you explaining what this is to me, or me explaining it to you. So here, if I were explaining this to you, it's a print line statement that begins with the tab. And then these 2 backslashes allow me to print 1 backslash. These 2 backslashes allow me to print another backslash. And then I tab in and I print backslash character, which is this line over here in the notebook. Okay, so that's escape sequences and string literals. And I threw in some method calls and how we can use different methods. Notice again that each method is contained in the class, and each method here is at the same level as main. So it's not inside of main, it's outside of main, but at the same indentation level as main. This method ends and starts there, this method ends and starts there, and then at the very end there should be a closing brace here to close the class. Another good habit to get into, I've done it, is I have a blank space in between the end of one method and the start of another method. There's a blank line in between the end of one method and the start of the next one. It just makes it easier for other people to read your code, but also for you to read your code as well.